mean, I weighed like 100 kilos, I was like fit and strong. And they reckon that the one guy stabbed me in the head with a screwdriver over here, and then the other guy must have shot me point blank in the chest, yeah. So the bullet went in here. It missed my heart by a millimeter.
What's happening, guys? Welcome to a new episode of Just the Radio. Today's guest flew in, just landed, just for me. No, I wish. But the guest today is a very inspirational guest, someone that has experienced something that 99.9% of the population will never have to go through or endure, and has come out of it, I assume, and what we can see as a way stronger, more motivated, inspired person. So Darren Thomas, a point-blank gunshot survivor, and I'm trying to think of the right word. It's, it's kind of, you've leveled up since it, and you've found a way to be positive, to be happy, to be hardworking, to still, be a family man, to still be a businessman, to still be, everything that you were, if not more, since that shooting. So welcome and thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I did fly just for you. I'm just doing other stuff while I'm here as well.
Okay, so that was the main purpose, was to come.
That's the main purpose, yeah.
Yeah, you were going to come last year, but then I got COVID.
Yeah, you got sick.
Yeah, and I didn't even, I wasn't even that sick. I just tested positive.
You were actually just being good to not pass it on to me and my family.
Yeah. But I mean, I think now, I would still say I've got COVID.
Yeah, but
maybe.
yeah, I don't know.
But I mean, the recovery time, and so this was last year already, was like 4 days. So I think now if I got COVID, probably like 1 or 2 days.
Yeah, you'll be
shot.
fine tomorrow.
Yeah. So, bro, you were shot point blank 15 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, so I had my normal day of going to the gym, like every Monday, chest day, international chest day on Monday.
Standard.
And I still trained, went home. I had my PB bench press on that day. So it was
a good start.
At least I got that. I got that in the bag. But it was a Monday night, like 3 a.m, and there were 7 guys that came into the house. They were actually at the gate.
At this point, were you like sleeping?
I was sleeping. I was like 3 a.m. So I was living with my parents. I'd actually moved back to them. I was staying with mates for a couple of years, and then I moved back. They'd redone the whole house, made my own wing and everything. So I'd moved back for a bit. I'd be there for about 3 months, and there were 7 guys that came to the house. My dad called me on the intercom. The alarm went off. My dad called me on the intercom to tell me that there's some guys at the gate, but the guys had already come into the house as well. So they knew exactly where to go. So I think they must have been subcontractors that were from the, that were building and doing the renovations on the house. And they knew exactly where to go, how to get in this window and come up. And the funny thing I'll start is they came 3 nights before that. So the night of the Rugby World Cup final, 2007, that was the final was on Saturday. They came the Thursday before that. My dad kept hearing the dog bark, and the dog would bark and bark. It was about 9 o'clock at night. I wasn't home, and he kept hearing the dog bark. And then I had a Rottweiler at that stage, and he didn't bark for nothing. He only barked when there was something there. And so my dad went out twice, and then the third time he fetched his gun, which was something he doesn't normally do. He's not like a gun type of guy, And he walked up outside to the top of the garden, and there were shots fired at him. So like the guys fired him. So he shot back and he ran inside the house, called the cops, and then the cops came, but the guys had run away. So then the Monday night they came back, and that was 3 a.m. At this time, obviously, I was there, and I went out I woke up and I don't remember anything. So when I woke up first, the dog was barking. I just bought my girlfriend a little Yorkshire Terrier puppy, and it was staying with me. It was barking. So I woke up and calmed the dog down. I thought, no, I'm just being paranoid. I think I can hear stuff, but I think I'm being paranoid because of what happened that night. And then I put the dog back to sleep. 40 minutes later, the guys came in. My dad called me on the intercom and spoke to me, told me there's guys at the gate. They caught me in my bedroom still. So I think they'd opened the door into me. I had scratches and bruises all the way up my arms. So I must have got into tussle with the guys. I mean, I weighed like 100 kilos, I was like fit and strong. And they reckon that the one guy stabbed me in the head with a screwdriver over here, and then the other guy must have shot me point blank in the chest here. So the bullet went in here. It missed my heart by a millimeter, because as they shot me, my heart contracted, went past, and then it opened up again. Then it hit my lung, ruptured my lung, and then hit the spine, and the bone fragments went into the spinal cord. So that's where the damage was done. So they then stepped over, they took a cell phone, wallet, computer, and the TV. That's all they took. And so they dropped my wallet in the driveway, and I didn't get that. And they left. And they crashed the car down the road. But the cops couldn't find them. They tried to trace them, but that's after, And I think I was left lying there, and my dad came when he'd seen that they'd left. He came down to the room and he saw me lying on my back in a pool of blood, so he thought I'd been shot in the head, obviously with that stab wound, but luckily it was just superficial, And I woke up and I spoke to him, which I don't remember. And then he had to rush me, so the security guys came, and they had to rush me, get me into the car, because I was losing too much blood because of my lung. And they had to rush me to hospital for like emergency surgery. So they had to cut open, they had to remove a third of my lung, close it up, and obviously saw the bullet went straight through, so there was no further damage otherwise. But then they closed me up, and then it was recovery, And the next thing I remember was waking up in ICU the next day.
Yeah. So your heart, as you said, that it contracted.
Yeah.
And then the bullet missed it, and then
Yeah. So if it was beating the other way, it would have hit
yeah.
it. Yeah. So that missed by a millimeter.
Yeah. So it's literally, your heart. Do you think, obviously having gone through that, maybe speaking to people that, your body almost anticipated it, and in that split second could have done it, or do you think it was just luck of the draw?
Yeah, I always say it's a miracle. I'm like, it has to be, because it's just the timing.
It's just too perfect.
Yeah. So like it's my thing when I have to think about it and talk about it, it's like that should have been it, and that's why like I've got to take this time to say it's my second chance. I've been given a second chance, and it took a while to get there. To feel that way, and because in the beginning it was hardcore.
So you obviously say today, you don't remember them coming in, scratching you up, stabbing you, all of that. Have you, gone to counselling, something to try retrieve those memories, or just to deal with the incident? So
I tried everything to try and remember, because like I want to know, why did I lose the fight? That's like my biggest thing, like why did you lose? How did you? I had a gun, and it was and I don't even remember if I cocked the gun, anything. But the way they opened the door into me, I may have lost it. They may have wrestled it from me. Who knows? But
and was it your gun that you had that they shot you with?
No, so they shot with their own, and they just took the gun. So they shot with their gun and then took it. But I tried everything to try and retrieve it. Like, and I even went to a hypnotherapist. They say that they can help you, and the hypnotherapist managed to get a lot of other stuff out of me, but just not that, And mostly they say that it's because of your body trying to block that trauma, like not to go through it again, because it's just maybe too hectic, But if there was a way, I'd want to know, so you don't really want to relive that trauma, but I'd want to know what happened, what went wrong. That's my biggest thing, Just not that I did anything wrong. I want to know what happened, and how it all went down. And
well, 7 guys. What could you have really done differently?
I suppose you're not going to win, but just to know, like how it happened. I suppose maybe it's better that you don't remember, because maybe it would be too traumatic. But to deal with it, and I never really went for any counselling. When I was in the rehab, they come with counselling stuff. But I've always been like a strong believer, So I've always been like, my faith has been a thing, So for me, it was really what got me through. I'd pray and that type of thing. So that was like my counselling, I think that was kind of every day in hospital. I was believing that tomorrow was going to be better. Like, I'm going to walk out of here, You've got the mentality where tomorrow I'm going to walk, or tomorrow the feeling's going to come back. Because they say it's swelling on the spine, so it takes time for the swelling to go down, and then maybe, it will come right. Because I wasn't it didn't sever my spine completely. The bone fragments went in halfway, and because of that, they call it an incomplete, but it's, they cause the damage. So they said maybe the swelling will go down, and like, every day I was every day I would think tomorrow's gonna be better, and although I'd get stronger, I think that for me, like, if I think back, sometimes I sit and I think, yes, you were stupid to think, tomorrow's gonna be better, but like, that was also what got me through.
Kept you going.
Yeah, I'm gonna walk out of this hospital. So like, tomorrow I'm gonna keep pushing, and I'm gonna keep believing, and I'm gonna keep being positive, and so that helped me. Obviously, there were days where I didn't feel so great, but I think that helped me in that time. I mean, when I was in ICU still, and they moved me to a general ward, probably like a week later, I think, 4 or 5 days later, I went to general ward. My biggest challenge then was to try and sit up in a lazy boy for 5 minutes without passing out, because you've been lying on your back now, your whole body's just been, you've had a bullet rip through you, it shattered things, it hurt things, and so that, I think my biggest thing was just it's trying to sit up and not pass out. And I'm like, if I think back to what that was, it's obviously I've come a long way, I mean, I used to have to, because eventually you start, and then they've got to teach you things. They've got to teach you how to get back, into a chair. You don't just sit in a wheelchair immediately and cruise, You've got to get strong, and so it's a process.
So you say obviously you were given a second chance, and you've lived your life like that. So, and you said it took you a while to come right to that point.
Yeah.
What were the biggest hurdles? Obviously, other than not being able to walk.
Yes, yeah.
What are the biggest hurdles, maybe mentally and then physically?
So I think the biggest thing for me was in the very beginning. Obviously, I was playing Lion Sevens rugby. I had gone to SA champs for kickboxing, so I was like active. I was in the gym all the time. And this thing happened, and this doctor tells you you're never going to walk again, and you're like, this is like, that's my worst nightmare. Like, I'd thought about it before, like, that's my worst nightmare, And so you think life's over. If this is it, and then life's over. Yeah, how are you going to, I'm losing exactly who I was. So I felt like I'd completely lost my identity. Who you're going to be. You're not a rugby player anymore. You're not a fighter anymore. So like, who are you? Now you've got to create this whole, so that, I think mentally that initially was like, it takes you down, it takes your self-esteem, it takes everything. Not only because now you're in a chair and you feel vulnerable and whatever else. It's just that you're not the same person, although you are. You don't have those traits that people are like, oh yeah, he's the oak who did this.
You almost lose your identity.
Yeah. So like, he's not the rugby player anymore. He's now this oak. What does he do? And I mean, I even lost friends. Like, some oaks just disappeared because the one oak's words, and this was like from his mouth to a mate of mine. And my mate saw him out probably 2 weeks later. Said, hey, why haven't you come to see Darren? He's like, oh, he used to be like the boy, So it was like, and so he's like, well, he's not. And it's like, so obviously we're not mates anymore.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's not your common thing. But I'm just saying that also then plays on you. Like, Jesus, like, said that to me, and so my girlfriend at the time, she stayed by my side, and she was studying law and had done her articles and everything, and she said to her boss, listen, I have to take some time off because this happened. No, he's like, no, you got to be at work tomorrow. So she's like, well, I quit.
Yeah.
So she stuck by me and was like there for me. So I think one of the big things in the beginning was also you have all these insecurities, and so mentally now you're not the same person, whatever. And yeah, she's like sticking by me, and it's like, I think it took away that one part of where you say you have that insecurity of losing everyone, and at one stage I said to her, you need to go because you need to live your life, like you in the prime of your life, and this is early for you, and I don't want to be the one who burdens you and brings you down and whatever. And she was like, well, I'm not going anyway, And I think for me, not having that insecurity of losing her, like, because she was just there every day. That made a big difference in like your recovery and stuff, you know. So I get emotional because it's just one of those things where today she's my wife, you know. So it's she really stuck out for the long haul. So and so like she was there through everything, and you know, people often look at the person who's gone through it and they're like, yeah, shame, whatever, but that person who's with you, like they go through the fire as much, but they're never the victim, you know. They're never the shame, they're always just there, you know. But they need the credit because they go through that stuff, you know,
that's incredible. You. That's incredible that she's stuck with you. It's now your wife, the mother of your kids.
Yeah. And I think, so mentally my challenge was, it got quite hectic in the first 4 months. Where I got to the point where I was like, I'm ready to give up, you know. And I'd pretty much planned my exit and whatever. And I just had this. I was sitting in bed, and I had these thoughts come to me. I still feel that it was God telling me, you know, this is not your time. And I just had these thoughts coming to me saying, just have a look at, because my thoughts of doing it wasn't because I was didn't want to live that way completely because I felt sorry for myself. It was because I was watching all these people around me struggle for me, even though they weren't struggling. They loved me and they were doing it but like had to carry this and do this and not to ask people. And I thought for me to go through this forever, it's just not. I'm an independent guy, you know. And so that's how your mind plays tricks on you, where you get into that state of feeling like that. So I think that was my whole thing, where I just felt like I've got all these thoughts coming saying, look at all these people that are here for you. They're not struggling for you. They love you. They want to be there for you. You've got all these friends. You've got all these people like that are with you the whole time. Like, you've got things to live for. Like, you're still alive. You know, it could have been the other way. And that was like the moment where I just realized that, geez, you know, I can't believe I was thinking what I was. And so, but you have those dark times because of what happens, you know, and it's tough. It's tough to deal with. It's a very difficult time, you know, going through and trying to be positive all the time, as I was positive most of the time, you know, but trying to, at some point you just you have those days where you just don't want to get up, like, and your body's fighting you don't know what's going on. Like, you know, I had some times in a hospital, like, where you're first learning what this injury is all about, you know, and you don't have control of anything. You don't have control of your bowels or your, you know, so like I'm lying in a hospital bed and the next minute I'm covered in my own, you know,
sure.
And I'm like, that to me was probably the point where I lost all dignity. And I was like, what just happened? And I wasn't in a rehab, it was in the hospital. So their job is just clean up. Doesn't matter if it's nicely done or anything. And these chicks came and it was like, yeah, it was hard. It's hard to deal with. And at that point, I called on my mates and I said to him, listen, because then I was so angry. You know, I was just so angry. I just said to him, you got to do everything you possibly can to find these oaks, you know. And that was consuming me for a while. And I eventually had to get rid of that, because if you focus on that all the time and the revenge and getting back onto that, then it'll just consume you completely, you know, and there's no time for healing then.
Yeah.
So
were you, because obviously you say you were very positive during, you know, the whole process of trying to heal and, you know, working through rehab and getting out of hospital.
Yeah.
Were you always a very positive person before the accident, or did you become more positive because of, you know, the adversity? So
I was like, you know, luckily I grew up in a household and my parents always like, you know, backing me, always like be positive and everything. So I came from a positive background, but this is like, it's make or break. Yeah, you know, it teaches you. I think I have friends who'd been in the similar situations who went the other way. You know, they got depressed and they were just like miserable and angry. Like you talk to them and you could just see they're like angry, and like no one. My whole thing is no one wants to be around that person. You know, you don't want to be like, every time you see the oak in a wheelchair, he's gonna complain to me. You know. Like he's going to complain about his back or whatever, and like I don't want to. So people tend to veer away from that. And I noticed in the beginning as well that people are very wary until you start talking to them and they realize that you're not there to complain, and you're not there to, and they can just have a normal conversation. Then they start to relax. You know, that happened a lot in the beginning. So I think going through this, it was like, you know, when it comes to mindset, it's like, that was something that I never knew before. Like even in my training and everything, you'd never thought, now you come across these people who have these mindset coaches, and it's so vital for anybody to have that, because without that, I find like how do you get to peak performance, or how do you get to anything without that? Without having a mindset of where you want to be and how you want to get there. And so I think for me, it was just such a big thing to have that positivity and to keep driving. And I think I've always wanted to achieve. And so now, like, in my training and things like that, the most difficult part for me is not being able to compete, like with rugby. Like, you want to win, or fighting, you want to win, you're competing for something. Now I was like, you go to gym and you kind of compete against yourself, it's fine, but that competition was lost, And I played wheelchair basketball for a while, which was cool because it gave me that feeling back. But then we had my daughter, and the time was just, I wanted to spend time with her, when we had her. So yeah, I think that competitiveness was a big thing that I missed, And but I think the positivity, you have your days where you don't feel positive at all, you don't want to face the day. But I've got 2 kids, my son's 7 and my daughter's 9. And when I wake up in the morning, and I still get the days where I don't feel like facing the day, because either my back's, or because I live in pain, like I've got constant pain, but it's bearable pain, and I live with it, But so there's days you wake up and you're like, you don't want to face this day. And then, then you just, I just think I've got these 2 are watching me. They're watching me, They're going to see if Dad gives up, then why can't we give up, And I've got, my wife who's been there for me, and I've got to stay there with them. I've got to show up for them. And even the days where it's tough for me, where I have to hide the emotions and hide the pain, I've got to do it to show them, like, I'm still here and I'm still fighting.
Yeah. Do you think you push harder now, being, in a wheelchair, than what you used to push when you're fully able?
Yeah, definitely. I think I always say I have to train twice as hard to get the same results as you do, and not because you're not training hard, but because my body is not going to allow me to get the same results unless I'm pushing, But also, like, now I know what it takes, to push as hard as I have to. I know that for me to get results that I want to, I'm going to have to work, because my injuries from the chest down, like, I feel nothing, I don't have any feeling from there down. So I've got no core, I've got anything like that. So I've got the parts that I do have, and thank God I still have arms and hands and strong arms to work, because I know there's some I actually don't have that,
Yeah, your arms are filling that shit out. Nice.
Yeah, thanks,
when you took off your jersey, I was like, you got good arms.
No, thanks. But, I've got to work hard, and I've got to push hard. And I think just because it is difficult. It is difficult in this position, and I'm not that oak who's like, oh, feel sorry for me or whatever, but it's difficult to get up and to train at a maximum level when you have 70% of your body that doesn't want to work, and but there's guys who do it, and I know that there's guys that won't face a day of training, like they'll train like once every 3 days or 4 days, like if I don't train, I feel like it's getting worse for me, like I need to, so I have to do it, but I definitely do push harder, and I have the ability to push harder. And again, when we're speaking about mindset, like I now have that mindset where, yes, if you gave me back my abilities to do, like I would just want to be a machine, I just want to do everything, like what you've been doing with the triathlons and that stuff. Like it's just like that kind of stuff inspires me, because when I see these guys doing so much, it just, because I never took my body for granted. But when I see them doing so much, I have so much respect and admiration for it, because you're not taking what you have for granted. You're using and you're pushing yourself to limits that people wouldn't, and your average oak is sitting on the couch doing nothing, but you going and you flat out all day. And so I have so much more like that, like the word inspiration gets thrown around very easily and very quickly, But for me, like inspiration is when someone says to me, like I'm an inspiration for something as well, is to be inspired. You have to be able to, for me to inspire you means I need to make you want to do something different or think differently, not just I use an inspiration and carry on, So that's where I draw my inspiration from, is watching guys like that just push themselves to the limit, push their bodies to the limit and work hard and just give everything they've got at that. Not everyone has to be a super triathlete, but just to use what you have and not take it for granted.
Yeah. Was it difficult for you? Because obviously you say, the worst thing for you was, being a burden on people.
Yeah.
And how was it, obviously now you become maybe more used to people, maybe tiptoeing around you. But initially, I assume, if you're getting out of a car, everyone like, oh, let's help you, let's help you.
Yeah, so the beginning was the worst because I could go to the shops and people would stare, and they'd kind of like look and whisper. And I was like, first of all, are they feeling sorry for me? You don't really want to go out. You want to stay, you want to stay indoors. And so I think my initial feeling is that, like, you get people, and it was difficult, like, for my girl, for my wife, when she was like, we walk around and she's this beautiful girl. And people would look, and I would immediately think that people are thinking, what's this beautiful, like, young girl doing with, like, in a wheelchair? You're just like, those are the thoughts that go through your mind. And maybe no one's thinking that, but, and do people do, like, feel sorry for you and, oh, shame and whatever. And you're like, it's not about shame, so I think getting now, obviously now, because I'm so independent and I do stuff, like, I'll, if there are people that are like, sorry or whatever, that, like, I'll try and make a joke and make them feel uncomfortable first and be like, and then they kind of look at me and
you're a normal person.
And they realize, so like, if, the good old joke of, like, I can skip leg day, you can't, but I think you have to have a sense of humor if you're in this position, because if you don't, life's going to suck. It just is, But again, that was a difficult part, to just trying to adapt to. People were looking at me for different reasons before that. You think, like, you're walking around, you got this beautiful chick on your arm, you're in good shape, whatever. That's what, that if they're looking at you, you're like, oh, that's what they're looking at. You got, like, a different.
Yeah.
Now it's different. So you kind of have to, you come down to your own level, but sometimes you maybe think things that people aren't thinking. Yeah. That's how it was, Now I don't really care. Like, if you think certain way or whatever, and the kids are my favorite, because a kid will come running up to you and be like, oh, what happened to you? And the mother's like, I don't know what to do with themselves.
Don't ask him that.
Yeah, I said, don't ask him. So the kid will be like, what happened? I said, no. He said, why can't you walk? I said, I don't eat my vegetables. And the kid's like, and the mom's like, a good one. But I mean, I went to the gym once, and this kid comes up to me and says, what happened? I said, I got shot. The mom's like, no, don't say that. I'm like, that's what happened. What must I say? She's like, no. I said, listen. I said, there are two lessons you could teach your child. You either could teach him, like, lock him off and say, or you could say to him, listen, that shows that guns are very dangerous. You must never play with them. That's like, because you can't hide from it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know personally, I've experienced with people, let's say a bird is dead and there's a little kid, not young, it's like 7 years old. Yeah. And they're like, no, don't tell the girl that the bird is dead. Rather just say it's sleeping or it's sick. And you think, this isn't showing this girl reality. People need to, you don't have to say, you can sugarcoat it. You can be like, unfortunately, it's not alive anymore or whatever. You don't have to say it flew and broke its neck in the window. But you can be honest, and you can, sheltering the kids.
You have to.
You can't.
I mean, my kids have gone through a lot of, I think they have an advantage. There's some disadvantages they have, like dad can't kick a soccer ball with them, that sucks. But the advantages they have is they've seen struggle. They know empathy. They can see that, you must never give up. Like, if I look at my daughter and my son, like, she's 9, so she's getting more and more competitive. But I've never seen a child with something like the drive that she has to just keep going. So it's amazing, because it will. You can say they're seeing that you must never give up on things and you must always go. But I can't. Like, if my kids, what happened to you? I got shot in a house robbery. They know it. They know there's bad men out there. They know it happens. They have to know. I can't say to them, you can't shelter them, because then it will never be a reality, and that's the world we live in. How you can't hide those things from people, and especially not from them. They need to know. So it's exactly that. No, the bird's sleeping. No, the bird's not sleeping. Yeah. You have to. It's difficult, I guess, but I think, unfortunately, and it's one of those topics. It's a very soft generation. There's a lot of soft people that are raising soft kids, and not to be ugly, but it doesn't help. you need to. This is a real world, and we live in it, and it's nasty, and people need to know that there's nastiness out there so they can prepare for it.
Yeah, it's actually ironic because people complain about everything. Let's say adults or cancel culture, the mob, whatever, they complain about everything, but then they will shelter kids to not see any of those complaints, or they will try, don't say that to her, shame, she's it's going to hurt her feelings, or it's going to this, it's going to that, but then they complaining about so much more. Rather show the kids that, okay, this is what the world is like. Unfortunately, these things are reality. It's going to happen.
Exactly.
It might not happen to you, but you need to be aware of these things so that you can, deal with negative things that happen in this world, because it's impossible to live your entire life being so sheltered.
Yeah, and I think the danger is when you do live sheltered like that, and you do shelter your children like that, if they don't learn, they become very naive.
Yeah.
And then
people take advantage of them, they can get hurt easier.
Exactly, and then the world becomes a very dangerous place, And so you have to, I think you just have to have that balance. But for me, like, I'll often have kids come and say, what happened to you and what's wrong? And then you have to tell them and just say, it happens. But then they're like, oh, are you a grandpa? They always ask me that because I'm in a chair. I'm like, no, I'm not a grandpa. It's like, oh, okay.
See, that's actually, if you look at kids, their innocence in questions, like they're not saying that to be mean to you, to be rude. It's just, it's on their mind, and they say it. And you know where you stand with them. They're not treating you any different than anyone else.
Exactly.
They just want to know because they're curious.
And that's what I love about it. Like if someone came and they saw me and they're thinking, what happened to this? Like, instead of like staring at me, I'd rather be like, listen, so what happened? So often when I meet people, they don't want to say, why are you in a wheelchair? They're like, it's awkward or whatever. But then someone's like, hey, what happened to your legs? Like I
those
prefer
people
that.
Definitely.
I prefer it because I can tell you straight, and then we can get on with the conversation from there on, and you don't have to wonder all the time.
And it's also, that person is not pitying you or, belittling you
That's
or
the
trying to
part.
sugarcoat you, whatever. They're just being honest. They're like, bro.
Yeah. What happened? Exactly.
Yeah.
You rather want that. I mean,
definitely.
I think there's maybe people who don't. Maybe there are people who want to veer away from, don't want to talk about it. But like I'm always like, talk to me, and I want to tell you. And again, like you'll see, like if like on my Instagram, like I'll post things that are real, rather than like I won't always be like, hey, everything's positive and everything's great and life is cool and I'm training here and I'm doing this. Like the days that suck, like I'll tell you, because for me it's important that I have to be real, just to show, that it's not, you get these people that are always like showing positive lifestyles and everything's amazing, but it's like it's not like everything's not amazing. Like my life is amazing and I'm so blessed, but I have my days that are like they still suck, and you still want, so it's you have to, I think, just again the balance of being real.
Well, you recently, speaking of real, the literal reel on Instagram, you posted a reel of you saving your dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a Rottweiler, hey?
Yes, yeah.
Pulling him out of the pool.
Yeah. So he people are like, oh, dogs can swim. Like my dog will not swim. He falls in and he splashes like a person who can't swim. Like his arms go wide. He just goes mad. And I heard him crying one day. He's fallen in before, and my wife has to try and get him out and pull him out, and he won't go to the steps. We've tried, he freezes, he goes into panic, and normally the cover's on, but this morning the cover wasn't on. But I heard, because the children had been swimming late the night before, and I heard crying. My wife had just left to take the kids to school, and I heard crying, and I was like, why is he crying? It's strange, So I went outside. There he's sitting in the pool. He's standing with his back feet on and his front legs on the ledge. So I phoned my wife. I'm like, Gas is in the pool. Like, I don't know how I'm going to get him out because I can't pull him out. She's like, oh, I'm just left. I'm taking the kids to school. So I'm like, she's like, okay, I'll hurry back. So when she drops him. So I looked at him and he looked like, I don't know how long he'd been in there. And because he hadn't been sitting, he normally sits with my daughter when she does her hair in the morning, but he hadn't been sitting there. So I thought, that's quite a while ago. So I went to try and, so he came around to the one side. So I grabbed his foot and tried to pull him out because he weighs like 50 kilos. So as I'm pulling him, or I get him like halfway out, but then my chest starts to tip, like I'm going to fall in. So I thought, if I keep pulling but I've got to get him out because I don't know how long he's been in. He looks like he's getting tired. So then I started doing foot paw by paw. I started bringing him across all the way to the other side. It took me like 7 minutes. But when we got halfway, he actually starting to want to go down, So when I went back and checked on the cameras, he was in there for like 25 minutes.
Sure.
So he got tired, you know.
Yeah.
So I got him out and I got him to step and he jumped out like nothing had happened, you know. But it's funny because, you know, like the Daily Mail picked that up, the story, and they posted it. And you must see the comments that I got. Like some are like, how can you have a dog without a pool cover? And what's this guy? What was the one that said, oh, who's filming this? Why aren't they helping him? It was like CCTV, you know.
Oh, my word.
So it's just funny. But yeah, I got him out and it was good.
Yeah. So you obviously, you know, rugby, kickboxing, all of that before the incident. Now, what style of training you doing? How are you doing it?
So I went back to the gym like 3 months after. I was like, I got to get back in the gym. I said to my trainer, can we do it? He's like, come on. I fell off a couple of benches and just carried on, and then started getting the hang of training. And I've got a stand-up chair, which is quite cool. So I like to I box. I hit the pads a bit, you know. Can't do much bobbing and weaving and moving around, but I just hit the pads. And then I started CrossFit. I started adaptive CrossFit, and it's massively growing overseas. So last year, the CrossFit Open came around and they're like, there's an adaptive division. So I'm like, cool, let me enter, you know. And I hadn't done CrossFit. I'd done a little bit of training here and there. So I entered, and it was so challenging and it was so difficult. But every time we would post our workouts, because it'd be online, you know, you have to post them, I could see where I was against other people, you know. And obviously the top oaks in the world. And then I was like, the competitiveness came back, you know, and I was like, this is like, it like reignited this flame in me to like compete. You know, I was like, geez, like this is hard. It's really hard because the movements are very, like, they're tough, you know, trying to do a clean and jerk from sitting without abs. It's a process, you know, and muscle ups, and like you got to do muscle ups and things like that. So I started training. I went through the Open and I ended up placing not so badly at the Open, you know, and I was like, okay, well, next year, you know. And there's something called Wheelwad, and Wheelwad is the CrossFit guys overseas that do all the stuff. And so the CrossFit Games, you'll see that last year was quite big because they had an adaptive division. They had the amputees and stuff for the first year, like amputees and neuro and things. And so this year we thought that they would put the guys in chairs in as well, but they didn't include the chairs. And I just say there's a lot of stuff that they've got to work around to get there, you know. But I entered the Open this year, and I placed in the top 20. So I qualified for the semi-finals for the CrossFit Games. Now our semi-finals are online. So I start the first workout on Thursday, and then we have to submit them. So you got to video the whole thing, you got to submit it, and then so I'll do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then we'll submit them all. And then our semi-finals are basically like the finals because we're not going to go to the games with the chairs, you know. But the guys that are top in the world, they're like low injuries, you know, so they got waist high injuries, so they're capable of quite a bit.
Got more of a midsection.
Yeah, I can pick up a bit heavier weight and stuff, but we kind of expected to do the same stuff. So it's tough, but again, for me, like, it's my drive, you know, like, so I want to get to the point where I can say I'm top 10, and I'm top 10 against the Oaks who have much more ability than me, you know. That's like, again, it's like trying to just, for me, it's just a challenge. So like, I'm going to be better than you, even though you got more than me, you know. Like that's what's driving me at the moment.
Well, I mean, there's so many people with full body capability that do nothing.
Yeah.
You know, and actually what I want to ask you is, you know, this whole process and being on social media and trying to inspire, is your main focus, you know, everybody, or is your main focus maybe people with disabilities?
So that's the whole thing. Like I've done a few talks, which is really where my passion is, like, is speaking, you know, and telling my story and sharing more than the story. So, you know, a large part of my market is people with disabilities, but it's also not a large part of my market because those folks know what they're going through. Like, a large part of my market is you sitting here, you're an active work and you're going flat out with your training, but there's another guy who's sitting here and he's not doing much. There's nothing wrong with him and he doesn't really have any inspiration to do something. I'm sitting here and I'm in a chair and I'm doing everything I possibly can. I'm not trying to prove a point to you, but I'm trying to say, use what you have, you know. There's just, we're capable of doing so much more than what we do. I mean, you know it now with the new training that you're doing. You're like, you never thought you'd have been able to run that far and do that stuff. So we really are capable of doing so much. And like, for you to just sit around, it's not healthy, first of all. And also it's just like, I speak to the basic thing, like if you've got like I've said to people, like if you've got a son and your son's like, Dad, come kick a ball, and you're like, not now, and you leave it. And I'm like, you know what I'd do to kick a ball with my son? Like I'd do anything for it, So it's like that type of thing. Like I would do anything to be able to do a squat, and do some leg press and whatever. But I'm not doing it so you can feel sorry for me. I want you to understand that, like, there's people worse off than me as well. So my thing is always like, there's always someone worse off than me who can't do what I can do. So I'm blessed to do that. But if you have more and you're doing nothing, doesn't it? I want to be able to inspire you to say, get up and do something. Take a walk, just be active, or just push yourself a little bit further. Even if you do have a bit of pain, or your back sore, or whatever, like you can still do something. And I think it's just the main thing. It's not even just training. It's life. People give up and people are struggling. Like this, times are tough. And I think having been through what I've been through, and it's been a long road. But if I can come out and be doing what I'm doing and have a family and live a good life, like, it's not the end of the world for people who do get into other situations, and depression and those type of things. There's always, I just want to be able to give that little bit of a drive to say, you can do it. Like, I have a bad day. Everyone has a bad day, but you can still push through.
True. Oh. And, obviously, because you say you've had to, work way harder physically to be able to, obviously build muscle and improve in CrossFit, improve in any style of training because of, your inability to use most of the lower half in your body. Yeah. But your brain is fully functioning. Have you also done things where you thought, okay, well, my brain isn't affected by this. I need to improve my brain as well. I need to study certain things, or I need to try look at, improving the things that are fully functioning in my body.
So that's the thing. I mean, you become more aware of everything else, like there's certain senses I have that are heightened that weren't before, and so with the speaking and that, like that's why I want to be able to go out there and extend it in terms of, there's a term which is life coach, and there's a lot of life coaches out there, and I don't always agree with, because if you're a life coach and you haven't been through life, then how are you telling other people what to do, And I'm not saying that because I've been through something that makes me better. I'm just saying that I've had that experience to say, these are the things that I've been through, and these are the things where my mind has changed. I've had to shift to survive. I've had to shift to get into a different, mindset. So being able to do the talking and obviously studying, looking into research of how to do it better and how to present and how to do those things. Obviously I have a business with my dad. We got a security business where we do anything from like alarm systems to access control, things for the banks and things like that as well. So my mind's busy, but like you've got to keep both. So, and I think like you say, it's just there have to be certain things that are heightened on mine that generally I don't have. If I don't have that, we've got to try and work on other things. So,
yeah, I guess you kind of learn the value of something that's working. I mean, silly example, and obviously not nearly what you experience, but I mean, when you've got sinus or your nose is blocked, often when I'm sick, I think like, I used to take breathing properly for granted, or I used to take, being able to swallow without a swollen throat for granted. I mean, I've been sick. And, you're tired, you're lethargic, like, I used to take it for granted. And you do. And every human on earth is, guilty of taking their abilities for granted. Then the moment it's taken away, then you realize, the true value of being able to move or being able to breathe or being able to hear.
100%. The thing is, I think, being cut off from here down, like, your body still has to operate however it does, but you now have just that. And then you have, like I do have my mind still. So, there's people that get neurologically, when they're injured and their brains get injured and things like that. And, thank God the screwdriver was just superficial, and there was no actual, because you see that and you go through that and you just think like, that, and then what kind of life can you lead then, It's so you have to, again, you got to just be so grateful for what you do have and use the things that you do have and try and expand, whether knowledge or whatever it is. Like, you're expanding on your fitness journey where you've gone from being a bodybuilder to being like a machine and running and riding. It's a different world,
Yeah, completely.
So but it also just shows that you can adapt to different things. I think everyone's got their own mountain to climb. Like if you come to me and you're like, yes, I've just done my knee, and then this is like the worst issue that you've ever dealt with, and people are like, yeah, but how can you compare it to what he's going through? Like, in your mind, you can, because there's athletes that tear hamstrings or do their knees that can't carry on doing the sport, and for them that's life, and so they think to themselves how they're going to carry on, how they're going to live. And so I always see it that way. Like, everyone's got their own mountain to climb, so you have to be relative to it. If someone comes to me and they have that, I can understand that they're feeling the same way, although the problem may not be they're not in a wheelchair, but it's their seriousness. It's not. So you have to look at it and be empathetic to that as well, because look, there's some guys that like you like pick your audience. Like at the gym, he comes up to me and. So we training and we asked the guy if he could help us. So just to pick up a weight, and he gives the weight and then he kind of showed like his back sore. So I said, "Are you okay?" He's like, "What's it just all back? Like I can't even train. I don't even know why I'm here because I'm actually not supposed to be in the gym." So I'm like, "Oh, okay, like sorry, bro, but I'm like." Pick your audience, like I'm
don't complain to someone.
Like, come on, but like sometimes you just gotta hold back, it's just one of those things.
But that's probably indicative to who that person is as a person, because if I look at you, or if you look at someone that's completely paralyzed, you're not gonna be like, my life sucks.
Yeah,
you're not gonna say, oh,
no, never.
My knees are sore.
Yeah.
When I did my first half marathon, my knee was really sore. But I'm not going to come and complain to you because I'm going to be like, bro, if this guy can train the way he's training and be in the top 20 for those CrossFit games, who am I to complain?
Yeah.
You can push through this. You can find a way to deal with this tiny little issue, because life could be way worse and you need to find a way to push through whatever you're going through. It may seem difficult, but there's always, as you say, someone that's gone through something worse than you. There's someone that has experienced something worse, been hurt worse than you, and if you don't find a way to push through it, no one's just going to help you and save you in life. Sometimes it's just up to you to go through what you're going through, get through it. There's going to be people that are there to help you.
Of course.
But if you're not going to be able to do it, you're not capable of putting your mind at a point where you can push through the adversity, no one's going to do it for you.
100%. So the whole thing is like no one's coming to save you. You've got people that are there for you and people who will pick you up as much as they can. But if you keep denying help and you keep declining help and you keep going into a state of, depression or I can't do this, I can't do that. I can easily turn and go negative. I can easily say to you, I hate this. This is every day I've got to wake up and stretch for 10 minutes when I wake up in bed, and my legs are spasming on some days, and I can't do this and I can't do that. I can complain all day to you if I want to, and I can come up with everything I want. But if I do that, first of all, I break myself down, and second of all, like there is definitely always someone who's got an issue worse than you.
And as you say, not even that, where there's someone worse than you. It's also, if I'm negative and if I'm not positive and inspired, I've got kids that are looking at me who are learning life lessons from me, either positive or negative. These people are affected by me. Either I can uplift them or I can just be a burden even more.
Exactly. You see it often. You see people they've grown up in negative households and it affects everything, like if someone's telling you the whole time that you can't do this, or you're sick, oh no, shame, I think you must just lie down, you can't do this today, I think you'd rather just take a day off and take another day off. Someone keeps doing that to you, that's what you tell yourself. And so if you pick up on the other hand and say, no, come on man, let's try do this today or do this, or just pick up and go for a walk. I know you can't run, or but have a walk, come walk around the garden, or just something like that. As long as you've got someone, you need that positive. That's what I would say, like a mindset coach, to have someone who's positive around you to say, you got to get through this, and you can get through this. It's not the end of the world.
Was your faith always strong, or was it obviously improved? And your communication with God obviously improved the more struggles that you went through.
So it always was. It was always there, but this has definitely strengthened it by a long time, by a long shot. Because for me, it was, what are you gonna do? Like, what are you gonna rely on? I'm gonna rely on prayer, and I'm gonna rely on doing those things rather than So you either push away, and I could either be like, well, you don't care about me, God. How can you let this happen? Now I'm in a wheelchair and I'm half the person I was. And with that said, like I often say, I think I had to have faith. I don't know how people who don't have faith, how they get through it. They have other ways, whatever their ways are. But if you don't have something to look up to, or to, something like that, then I don't know how I wouldn't have made it through. At that point when I was ready, it would have been it, And so without God in my life, I wouldn't have made it through, and I wouldn't be where I am today. And that I know for a fact, So I think, I just think you have to have something, and for me that's it. And my faith has gotten stronger and stronger. And I mean, things happen and bad things happen, and then you maybe fall back a bit, and your faith is not so strong anymore. But if I've got to look at this. I got shot. I'm in a wheelchair, and I don't have the use of a lot of things. But all in that time where I've been waiting for things to get better, like if I had missed all the small things, then I would just be like, oh, life sucks. But I've had such amazing things happen in my life where, I got married. I had my daughter, and I had her completely naturally. I didn't, and that's not even heard of, So we didn't have to have any like artificial insemination with her or with my son. So it's a blessing, 2 blessings and 2 miracles that come out of it. I've got a family, I'm alive. I've got friends, and I can sit here and I'm talking to you, and it could have been different. It could have been different. So I think for me, I have to say, sure, I've been dealt some blows, and it sucks. But I've got a lot to be grateful for.
Sure. Well, bro, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. There's a lot of people able, or maybe semi not able, or even worse, in a worse situation than you in terms of their capability, and I mean, who maybe need inspiration. I know I was in Pretoria, and I did a YouTube video with a guy's name's Coach Legs. I don't know if you've heard of him. So he's gone to the Paralympics. He's a swimmer.
Okay.
And it was quite cool. We would do some training videos together. He was obviously rolling in his wheelchair, and I was running, and we'd race on the athletics track.
Cool.
And
That's cool.
Doing those kind. And if Marco Petrosky,
yes, yeah, of course.
He's always saying he wants to come on the podcast. So obviously he's in Cape Town. If he's ever in Joburg, I'd love to have him on.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, because I see him, and he goes to the same spot where I go on the rehab side as well.
Yeah, and it's amazing to see. And I know for myself, I mean, I'm thinking how cold it was this morning. I'm like, I've got to run tomorrow morning in the cold. Yeah. But I mean, Jesse, you could run.
Yeah.
So go do it.
Yeah. That's a way to look at it. I mean, it is a way to look at it. You say, well, most people aren't going to get up and run, but you can. Yeah. And it's cool that you use that, and that you have it and say because you can. Or some people are like, yeah, but everyone can run anyway. Like not everyone, but the general population.
Yeah.
But you say you can do it, so do it. Use what you've got.
Because it could be taken away like this.
Well, that's it. For me, it was like I was living the dream, So I thought I was playing rugby, I was riding my jet skis, super bikes, doing everything. Everyone's like, oh, you're going to fall off your bike. You can't ride bikes, I was lying in bed, and someone came in and shot me. So it can change in a heartbeat. And when it changes, what happens, And so if you're still here and like I am, you've got to now make the best of it. Like I said to you, I've got a second chance. My biggest thing is I want to make a difference. And I want to show people, like I said to you, there's so much more that you can do. And just try and be an inspiration where inspiration means I make you change your mind to do something today, or you want to move more, you want to just do something, But rather just to make a difference and to say, yeah, that's inspiring, but then you forget about it, So it's got to be impactful. I think the minute I lose value in terms of not being real and not being able to show you that, I'm still going through times that are tough, but I'm still pushing through, then there's no point anymore,
Very incredible. Thank you so much for coming
No,
on.
thanks, man. I enjoyed it. Like
Awesome. And
finally.
enjoy your stay, the little bit of stay in Joburg. And good
thanks,
luck
man.
for that training on Thursday.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, we'll know when we submit all the scores on Sunday, and then we'll see how it goes from there. But the field is tough. There's a couple of oaks that are, there's some strong oaks. So they're like,
As are you.
yeah, I'm gonna fly as well. But they've got a little bit of extra abs to work with. But can't make excuses.
You just got a stronger mind.
Can't make excuses. Yeah, you got to have it.
Awesome, Darren.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
And thank you guys for watching. Cheers.
Thanks.